Boker Tov, good morning. We continue with our 3-minute daily dose of Torah. We have begun looking at the Psalm 27, which we recite each morning, each day, twice a day, between now and the end of Sukkot, but primarily with our thoughts leading up to Rosh Hashanah. In the Psalm, David describes tormentors, people who gather around him, the people that he's been involved. He leads a life in which there are many who have tried to cause harm. There's a lot of battling that goes on, and he says in the Psalm that he trusts that Hashem will protect him. That's what he describes. And then he says, really, Achat sha'alti me'et Adonai ota bakesh. There's one thing which I ask of God. That's what I really want. Shivti beveit Adonai kol yimei chayai, that I should be able to dwell in the house of God all the days of my life. Lachazot panom Adonai ulebaker behechalo, to gaze upon the pleasantness of God and to levaker behechalo, to what's translated levaker in his abode. So that's his request. He says, what I really want is not to be involved in all this. I wish I wasn't fighting battles. I wish I wasn't even involved in all the stuff of, I guess, about the kingship that I didn't even talk to know when exactly he writes this. What I really wish is I could be in the Beis HaMikdash, if that's what it means. Let's presume it's what it means, to be in the house of God. But it takes on a life of its own, of course, to be, for all of us, to imagine what it means to be in God's house, however we can create it in some special way. And we seek to be in God's house. We describe it to dwell in God's house. If I could just be there and I'd open up Sfarim and I'd contemplate, as Mefarshim point out, what he's describing is Lachazot Panom Hashem, to gaze upon, to God's pleasantness is really to contemplate God in the deeper contemplations. And then he ends it with this phrase, Ulevaker behechalo. What does that mean? So one explanation that's offered, Rashi already quotes an earlier teaching of Donash, who's a famous, who indeed precedes him, who says, Levaker is like the word boker, to mean to always be there every morning before the day begins. That I could be there from an early time. Others offer different readings, but we know the word levaker also, because it also means to be choosing between. There's another pasuk they quote, but we know that levaker means to visit, and there's an interesting space, right, which is to imagine what does it means to dwell in God's house and to visit there. And the beautiful reading that's kind of offered is that I should be able to dwell there, but every time I come, I should feel like I'm a visitor, like it's fresh and new for me in this space, to try to have a higher experience of my time. That is the goal. Our lives are so full of all the stuff, and we're asking Hashem for all of our help, but really we should try to find a space in which we just want to be able to have a spiritual engagement with God, to dwell with God in the deepest of ways. Wishing you all an opportunity to do that in the days ahead.